everybody, this is BKC back in modded Borderlands, and I don't remember. Oh no, the last one I fixed this adapter. I don't know why it's still glowing green. I spawned a vehicle. I thought it shut off after that.
Thanks for using scooters, catch
yeah, back to the mod talk.
Real charmer, that one.
You know, some people are like, oh, it breaks your game, it messes up quick. So far, nothing is broken.
Great. Now head to Sanctuary,
everything, all the quest works.
He'll want to meet the Vault Hunter who's...
We kind of went over the Revolver mod. We talked about the
down Handsome Jack and lived.
What we talked about? We talked about this area not being locked out of like sniper rifles and SMGs and stuff. Yeah, they're all still crappy, but that's at this level. We're getting a lot of blue shields, but I kind of have a feeling because it is shield locked. Also, you're not getting bandit shields, you're not getting Malawan shields, you're not getting Torg shields. Basically, what is happening is since it's all Tediador, you're getting 100 chances of getting a blue. And since there's so many Tediador shields that we're just getting a lot of blue shields. I should have sold one of these guns. What's my lowest? I want that SMG. That's a horror show. What am I using right now? I forgot what. Okay. Select and compare. What's that? Is that a horror show better? No, that's garbage. I'll drop that. Wait, is that a Vladov? Tempting, but no, we don't want a Vladov. Not yet. Vladovs are good, but just not yet. Right now we're playing with Powerhouse Jacobs. We're playing with the slow fire rate, high damage. And then we're gonna back it. We gotta back it up with something. I can't equip that yet. Actually, what we need to be doing, we need to be Thunderbolt. I mean, tinderboxing these fools. I know a lot of people don't like the tinderbox because of the arcing bullets, but this thing just rapes bully moms. It kind of makes sense. Flint's in an area where bully moms can exist. If he was out in the wild and a bully mom attacked him, he'd want to better just, rape him and not have, rather not deal with it. And for people watching, I know some people are like, oh, use the car, but I kind of like to do it on foot. I know a lot of new people get the thing, they just blast through here, they don't even kill the bully moms. Well, not killing the bully moms is not leveling. Doing it in the car, you're getting half the XP. So, I want to get to the good stuff. I don't want to be stuck at level 3, level 4. I don't want to be stuck doing side missions Oh, now we got to go over another mod. Okay, so we have a level, let's see, level 11 Malawan. I didn't even check it. This is just a standard old Malawan. It's got a Hyperion barrel. I think that's a Hyperion grip. No, I think there's a dog grip. And then I think that's, I don't know, I think that's mostly Hyperion and dog. But, okay, this is a mostly Malawan grip, Malawan, but it has a bandit barrel. The same mod author that did the, I think his name is Aaron00000. He's most of my mods that I have that is not in the community patch, which some of his mods are in the community patch. A lot of skins and some of his balancing stuff is in the community patch. I think he kind of helped out with the community patch. But this is a mod he did too, and he did the same thing. A bandit barrel. He did the same thing he did with revolvers. He added a ×2 prefix, because in Borderlands 1, let's see if we can drop something and pick that up. In Borderlands 1, we had SMGs that had a ×2 and a ×4 modifier, and we kind of lost that. I think we had a few assault rifles that had that. I'm not too sure. I don't even think I have a max level character in Borderlands 1. To me, without having the raid bosses and not having no in-game content, and you know, you just kind of get to max level and then you just keep farming to get better and better. Try to find perfect gear and get pearlescence, but the pearlescence only drop in one DLC. I kind of just there's some limitations to Borderlands 1, but we didn't have limitations on these SMGs, and I really think, oh crap, I'm completely out of all ammo because I can't play with any guns now. Let's go shotgun. Okay, he must have burned out. He must not been dead when I thought he was. What Aaron did was he took this. If it's got a bandit barrel, it's going to have a ×2 multiplier. So I think he took the damage down. He took the damage down. You know, I think overall you end up with a slightly more powerful. I can't be sure. Let me see. Well, this is a level 11. I can't really compare it to a 2. I don't have any other SMGs. I think I just threw down an SMG, didn't I? No, I don't know what I threw down to pick that up. I think that bandit had 21 damage. So, for being a Maliwan wouldn't have as high of a damage as a normal non-elemental gun. It kind of just makes up for it in the elemental. So normally your damage is pretty close to this. So this would probably be about maybe 19 or something like that, with 22 on the elemental. So having 18 damage, which ×2, that's all right. Damage I think is fine, but on this particular gun, being wired and being a Maliwan, the accuracy went to crap. The fire rate's good. The reload's good. I don't think he messed with the mag size because he's not forcing a ×2. Like, he's not 2 ammo per shot. He's basically just saying one bullet goes in. It breaks the bandit barrel, breaks it into 2, and it does slightly more damage, but you got to put up with accuracy. So if I put this on right now, since I don't have any pistol ammo, let's see, can I put this on? Yes, I can. Let me go ahead and spin my skill point. And what I do, if anybody watching or any new players watching or want to start a Maya, I always put 1 point into Sweet Release, because that allows you to phase lock and get some healing and not be 100% reliant on health vials dropping. I always spec into Ward because that is your shield, and your shield is your life. Some people say Borderlands, the shields are not as important, and that is true. They're not as important, but the health is similarly not as important in all the games. You can't literally just stand there and take 10 shots, you know, with your health, because there's things like fire guns. So this thing is like atrocious, but and then
everything looks so good.
To me, Foresight is one of Maya's best skills early on. She doesn't need damage. She doesn't need a lot of protection because the shields are pretty much all the same. But I like to start speccing into Ward. So I'll get my 5 points here. I'll maybe put, when I start getting like enemies doing me damage, if they get through my shield, I'll maybe put a 2nd point in here. But I always dump all my points into Foresight. I think that's one of her best skills. You increase your mag size, which makes you not have to reload as often, and then when you do reload, you reload faster. So to me, that's one of her best DPS skills, even though she doesn't need the damage. So we're increasing her DPS without actually increasing gun damage. So that's what I always do. And sometimes I don't even spec into ward because these Tediador shields are pretty fast charging. They're not really good on capacity, but I always go for the high recharge rate, lower capacity, which is, you know, lower delay, really low delay, lower capacity, but at a higher recharge rate. That's basically your stereotypical Tediador shield, and I think it kind of goes better than what people do by going all high capacity shields. But you know, that SMG is basically atrocious. It's useless at any kind of range, but it becomes a Maliwan shotgun basically. There's no Maliwan shotguns, there's no Doll shotgun, and there's really no reason that they couldn't be. But it does pretty good on this scenario. Like, watch, I'm gonna stir up all these racks. Like, I can hit multiple racks at a time. I could also miss every rack. But if you get up against a Bulimong at point blank, it's basically a Maliwan shotgun. And I think the closest thing, if there was a Maliwan shotgun, it would, the Heartbreaker would be the best example. But I mean, that thing's atrocious. You can't hit the broads out of a barn with it. But this is also a Maliwan, and it doesn't really go good with come on, y'all gonna come fight me, or y'all gonna just dance around in the sky all day?
Calm down.
But there was a Torrid shield in one of those toilets back at that camp, and if I would have took that, well, I don't think it was a level 11, I'm not sure. But the fact that a Torrid shield is dropping already, I could have put that spike damage Torrid shield on, and those racks would be blowing themselves up when they would attack me. You know, that's something. I find it kind of takes a little bit of the early monotony. The fact that, you know, I understand they kind of storyline-wise, they kind of said, oh, Maya, you know, didn't have no weapons. Like, I mean, in the, what was it, the Krieg, the Meat Bicycle trailer, you know, they show Maya boarding the train with like a blue or purple Maliwan electric SMG. You know, I would imagine when she left her planet, to come to things, you know, she had to do some space travel, and I'm sure she armed herself with a good Maliwan SMG. And okay, so maybe it got thrown out of her hands and she lost it or whatever, but why wouldn't she have a good shield? Why wouldn't she, you know, she would have gear that, like, why would she be stripped of all that gear, you know? And I understand they want you to kind of build your character up from nothing.
Hope you've had your shots.
But, like, see, this is a terrible shield. That is a terrible shield. That shield will get you killed. 2 shots of anything is going to break it. Then 6 seconds later, it's going to take 6 seconds to come back. And then, let's see, 237 divided by 14. It's going to take 16 seconds to charge. That is a terrible shield. And a lot of new players go, ooh, that's a good shield. Let me get that. Don't do that. That is not good. Find a balanced shield. Like this thing right here. This thing is amazing. It's the same capacity as what I got. I give up like almost 0.2 of a second and I gain charge rate. This thing is amazing. This one's not. I'm gonna buy that one, man. That one's so amazing. I done talked myself into that one. Man, that scout is gonna be too ammo inefficient. This bushwhack's gonna be too ammo inefficient.
Good choice. Try not to.
So we'll put our new shield on. Wait, what am I doing here? Oh, I'm comparing this shield. Wait, did something? Oh, okay. Yeah, this one's a little bit better, but not
Feeling
much.
overburdened by money.
But see, having the ability to have extra
Tell your
grenades.
friends, Marcus Munitions.
Ooh, that's a good SMG. See, it's got the bandit barrel, so it is also an Anarchy. Now the mods. The mod I think is called Anarchy. Yep. I don't remember off the top of my head. But you can, like, the whole point of the mod is to try to give us stuff back that we had in Borderlands 1. And we had Anarchies, and then we had double Anarchies. And yeah, this thing is terrible. The damage is okay, better than the Maliwan, but it's still got terrible accuracy, so it's not good for us right now. But with the Tediador, now see, this makes a little more sense, because with the Tediador, this thing has higher damage, mainly because it's a blue and it's non-elemental, so that's not really good damage if it was like a bandit or a any other non-elemental. But with Tediador SMGs, let's go ahead, I'll buy it. I gotta watch my ammo, because I mean my money, because I'm buying all this stuff in the vending machine and we don't have a lot of money. We only got $1,000. So let's go over to Sanctuary. No matter what we do, these bully mons are going to attack us. So let me show you what this thing does. Like, yeah, it's a terrible SMG, but so were Anarchies in Borderlands 1. But if something got in your face, you know, and then this makes more sense on a Tediador, because Tediadors, you want to be in chucking range in case they down you. So you want to let them jump in your face, and then you want to wreck them like a shotgun. And to be honest, this is actually better than Tediador shotguns in my opinion.
Another challenge completed.
Because there's chances you could land crits, even though you want to. Now, is it better than just a regular Tediador where you just you know, constantly landing crits? Probably not at this early level, because I know they're gonna come back and try to attack me. I think you get a hair more damage, but since you can't hit anything, you know, they're probably not as good at this stage of the game. But later you'll start seeing different combinations of Anarchies that more like Borderlands, where like anytime you add pellets, the accuracy is going to go down. And you know, for this mod, you say, oh, it's a bandit barrel. Is that gonna turn all my, you know, bandit weapons into Anarchies, because they already got terrible damage, and then on like Hyperions have awesome accuracy, but they got low damage. So you kind of want a bandit barrel on them to make them bad. That's the only trade-off you give up with this mod. The best Hyperion SMGs, you know, of course, is the bitch, but that's going to be all. Is there two guys here?
Grinder. We're only gonna
That's
kill every
weird.
last one of you. What's going on?
I never noticed. I've never seen two guys here before. That huge blast radius off that blue Tediador weapon. it's not going to turn all bandit weapons because a lot of your bandit weapons in the beginning, earlier in the game, have Tediador barrels. And a lot of, you know, and they got Malawan barrels when they're not elemental, which doesn't boost anything. It's just going to turn all brands that have bandit barrels into anarchists with double throughput. But since they don't use double ammo,
No more ammunition!
you actually get more damage if you could get within usable range. Which, like on a Tediador, on that Malawan, it doesn't make sense, but it does kind of make sense if you get close, because on the Malawan, you have a 12.5% chance. Well, not that one, but a 14.4. A night chance, 14.4%. That's on each pellet. So the burn damage is what's really truly doing the damage on a Malawan SMG. If you just want to do straight up damage, just get a normal with a Hyperion or a mallet. Well, you really want a Malawan barrel if you want, you know, to get the matching parts bonuses and get the higher burn chance, the higher burn damage. But at low level on a Malawan, you know, you get double the chance to ignite your enemy. So with that right there, that's 14%. If I would spec 6, so that's like having 2 points in flicker all the time, just by getting an Anarchy over. Oh God, I forgot I hate Tediador because I obsessive compulsive reload. On the Malawan, that makes sense because, like I said, I get 2 elemental chances. That's like me being 2 levels ahead and putting 2 points into flicker. Or if you're playing Gauge, where the accuracy doesn't matter anyway, if you got close enough, all those bullets are going to be hitting walls and having a chance to come back and do, you know, 50% of whatever your Anarchy damage is, which, if you got like 100 stacks of Anarchy, you're going to be doing massive damage anyway. So those guys sitting up against this wall, I could have just sprayed and prayed on this wall, and then the bounced off bullets from close enough would have came and just annihilated them.
You're never
So
getting into sanctuary. You
it
bloodshot
adds
skaglicks. Hold up.
a
You're
lot of
vault
new
hunter.
builds, new
Just a
plays.
second.
You
Roland
know,
wanted to talk to you. Let
if
me
you
echo
get
him.
Maya and you get her a bitch and you get her a cat class
you're the one
mod,
I'm
and
hearing all this radio
you
chatter
spec
about.
her out
Name's Roland. I used to be a vault hunter like you.
for that
Until I joined the
bitch,
Crimson
you're
Raiders.
going to end up with a really
We'll catch up
powerful
when I get back
character,
to
but
Sanctuary.
you're going to
For
get
now,
bored,
I need your help.
you know, and you
My men tell me Corporal Reese hasn't
fall
returned the power
into
core that we need to keep the city's shields running.
a cookie cutter
Reese back to
build that,
Sanctuary,
you know,
you'll
when you're
earn your place
min-maxing,
in the
everybody
Raiders.
uses the same build, you know,
Roland's contacted you?
and
Good. Listen to what he says. He can help us
I
defeat
find
Jack.
that min-maxing, I mean, I do it at times, but I do get kind of bored with it, and what I'll do is I'll play a character and I'll get
Handsome
stomped.
Jack here, reminding you all
Like,
not to
I'm
worry
working
your
on a
pretty
new
little heads
build,
about
and I
those
get
earthquakes.
stomped.
See, with every tremor, my
You
drone
can't
gets
figure
closer
something
to the vault,
out.
to freedom, order, and
And
safety for us all.
I'll basically go
Except
back
you
and
assets.
just get tired of doing it, and I'll start a new character, and then I'll learn something from the new character, and I'll say, oh, I'll use this in this build that I'm having trouble with. I'll show you that ammo module. Okay, see, I'm out of SMG ammo. One click.
My millionth customer.
Whoa, it didn't
Don't let
do
go
it.
to your head. Thanks for the scratch.
I wonder if my, you know what? I know what I forgot.
Carving out mTOR.
The community patch adds that one-click module,
Lovely. A pleasure as always.
but I bet you the mod that does the
Man, help
vending
you
machines
kill
is
many
overriding it and putting it back. So I probably got to go back and
Always open.
see if the mod for the vending machines has that module, and
Why
maybe
loot
have
the
to
dead
check
when
it.
You can buy from me.
And I'm gonna have to look into that. But I know the Make Great Vendors Great Again has that option to make a buy all button, and so you would uncheck it on the community patch and then check it on the Make Vendors Great. But I didn't check to see if the Borderlands 3 vendor does, but I hope it does. Okay, now
Get to
here's a
killing.
bolt
Don't
action,
get killed.
which is another thing I gotta talk about because I'll get rid of this Anarchy for this bolt action. In normal Borderlands, a white was a bolt action, a green was a non-bolt action, and I'm not talking like, you know, this is 0.7 fire rate, and then you would get a green, which would have a 4.0 fire rate, and then you get a purple. I mean, you get a white had a 0.7 but crappy damage. A blue had, a green has slightly better damage and a way better fire rate, which is way more DPS, and then a blue has no more damage, you know, just a little bit because it's blue, but you're back to a crappy fire rate. So the DPS just tanked, and there was no reason to use blue Jacob sniper rifles. There's just no reason. And then when you go back to a purple, you get your damage because it's even higher rarity, and then you get your fire rate back. So you literally just got the green Jacob sniper rifle from Sir Hammerlock, and then you didn't replace it until you got another on level green, or you get a you know, of course if you got lucky enough to get a purple to drop, but there was no reason to use blue. The community patch has upped the damage on these things like by a significant amount. I think it's
Unexpected.
I think it's the same thing. It's almost like 2 times, maybe 2 and a little bit more, to make these worth their slow fire rate. See, as long as they're back here, I'm not worried. That slow fire rate doesn't hurt me. But if I don't have the damage, what would be the point? Whereas, you know, if I miss a shot, I miss a crit, on a green I can just pop, 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 you know, and I could just decimate this DoubleAnarchyV4 because let's see what I crit for if I can land one. You can stop throwing things at me and stop moving. So see, I critted for 1,600 damage, you know, off of a sniper rifle that does 220. And if I compare it to a green, let's see, that's a level 5, level 7. So let's say this was a level 7 and it went up to 110. This does double damage. So it kind of gives you a reason to use, yeah, see, 151% weapons damage. And I think that's because it's a Calipine. I noticed that some of the other buffs, like let's see, he buffed the bolt action, but then he buffed Hyperion too, and I think some of them have like 150%, and then some of them have 151, and then some of them have like you know, different numbers slightly, but like only like about 1% or so either way from 150. I think what that is because he buffed another barrel for some reason. Like for some reason this MadhouseRemastered barrel has a little bit of extra buff on it for some reason. I don't know why. I know the Hyperion one has even more, I think even more damage. But a Jacob, well, a Hyperion barrel, any sniper rifle wasn't really a desirable sniper rifle. It's probably the worst in every category. A Hyperion Vladoff was terrible. A Hyperion Jacobs was the worst. A Hyperion's Malawan was the worst of, you know, of its particular brand. But since he buffed Jacobs altogether, I mean not Jacobs, Hyperion altogether, I think the barrel carried a little bit of its buff. Ouch. So you notice this thing is like decimating people too if I get the crit. And then even if I don't get the crit, the body shot's doing double the damage, and I think it makes kind of like the revolver mod. It makes it. I mean, I guess I could talk about just Jacobs in general. Jacobs in general. Okay, you had your bolt actions, which were horrible. So you wanted a purple or a green. And then you kind of wanted, you know, a Calapine's okay with its Maliwan barrel. It doesn't really do anything for the gun. A dull barrel is okay also. Spawning that badass. Pop him with the explosion. See, that's a badass, and I critted him, and I took almost 3/4 of health, and that didn't do anything. But see, it kind of makes me a little bit immune in this first part to where I'm not so scared of these badasses. I don't have to dance around, and I can actually land crits and do what sniping is meant to be. Now, some people might say that's overpowered, but you gotta also realize these guns are balanced. They wanted to balance them for in-game, but they didn't want to make them overpowered. They wanted more guns available to you at in-game, and I still probably wouldn't use this at in-game. I would still rather have more lower damage shots, because every time you're reloading and trying to get a critical and you're missing and you're not taking huge chunks of damage off, enemies in like the OP levels are regenerating health. So you kind of just want to pop. You kind of want to just get a Vlad off or a muck and just, you know, do as much damage as you can, and you know, but you know, there's a balancing act to be had there. You can't make them. If you made them powerful enough for in-game, they're going to be a little bit overpowered in an early playthrough. So keep that in mind before you cry, you know, overpowered and all that stuff. I don't think they're overpowered. I just think they're more balanced for in-game, and then they're more fun during a playthrough. Kind of want that little dull pistol. Yeah, we was talking about Jacobs in general. Jacobs has the muck, okay, which is your most powerful Jacobs sniper rifle. It's just a pure Jacobs parts. I mean, you could put maybe $1 Hyperion grip on, a stock on it, and try to help control the recoil a little bit better. But you kind of basically wanted a. And then another thing about parts, pure guns. I didn't get to choose the parts. I'm not going to sit there and farm that machine for blue. I'm going to use what I got. And so, parts pure guns are kind of like, yeah, whatever. So I didn't get a choice between a muck or a Calipine or a, I forget what the other ones are called, the other barrels. I didn't get a choice. I got a Calipine, and it's a bolt action, and I like the new mechanic of playing with the bolt actions. So, Jacobs in general, okay, you had your bolt actions, which were terrible, but it was a different play style. If they made only bolt actions like only bolt actions below a certain level, and then at a certain level they just became regulars, you know, or say only whites and greens, and then made the blues and the purples non-bolt action, and then made like legendary versions of the bolt actions with super high damage, and made you know, a legendary is there a legendary muck? No, because you get the Skull Smasher. It's basically, it would be a legendary muck, but what it does is it's a shotgun, you know, multi-pellet sniper. So forget about these. Gearbox messed up all the whites, greens, blues, purple variation. You basically just want a purple, because the only legendary is the Skull Smasher. I'm trying to remember if I'm thinking about that right. Is there any other legendary? And the legendary is the Skull Smasher, which is kind of like a shotgun sniper rifle. don't know why he came all the way to punch me, but didn't punch me. Did he see that I had a bolt action and say, man, those things got a strong buff and ran? The Skull Smasher is kind of like a shotgun, so it kind of limits its range, and to get its critical potential, you kind of want to be at close range. So it's a shotgun sniper. And then when you get into the shotguns, they got the Striker, which is kind of like the highest accuracy Jacob shotgun, and it's kind of like a sniper rifle shotgun. And then when you got into their assault rifles, you had just their normal assault rifles, which were, you know, high damage, the best crit out of all assault rifles. And then you got the Vladov barrel ones, which kind of gave them 3 shots. You consumed 3, so they were somewhat of a shotgun assault rifle. And then you could kind of say, well, the normal ones were kind of like a medium range, snipery type assault rifle, and then the Vladov barrel ones were the... That's a little bit overpowered, but he is a trash mob without a shield, and I am critting him, so that is a little overpowered, but it's fun. So you can kind of say their assault rifles are a little bit like mid-range sniper rifle, and then slightly closer range shotgun. But they didn't follow that with the pistols. They didn't really do anything with the pistols. I don't think there's any variation between a Widowmaker and a wheel gun. There's a little bit of variation.
The first Crimson Lancemen are recruited to the Raiders. Get that power core back, and while you're at it, kill some bandits for Reese. It's what he would have wanted.
They did a...
You've got an area waypoint. Sometimes your echo device can't find the precise location of what you're looking for. Search the area marked by the big-ass green circle on your mini-map. Your objective is somewhere in that area.
They kind of did a little bit with the twofers. The twofer, but it's kind of like, well, if their assault rifles get, you know, like the Skull Smasher, I think has 6 pellets, I think, and then the The Skull Smasher, I think, has 6 pellets, 5 or 6 pellets. Okay, the shotguns all have like 13 and 18 and stuff. And then the Skull Smasher has like 6. And then the most you could get on an assault rifle is 3. And then with the pistols, the best you could get, well, I'm kind of lying because your rod was the highest damage, but it's nowhere near like what I would consider a pistol sniper rifle. You don't have enough damage to have sniper rifle damage, and you were just better off pulling out a sniper rifle than trying to snipe somebody with the pistol. And then the best you could get on a pistol would be the Maggie, which is basically just a Skull Smasher pellet on a pistol. And the Maggie kind of was the same thing. If you were at close range and you landed all those pellets on crit, it did massive damage. But if you didn't land all the pellets, it kind of could just be weaker sometimes than just a normal. But the Maggie's still pretty, since it's a legendary, its damage kind of rises above everything. And it's kind of a shotgun pistol, but there's no real sniper rifle pistol. And then the closest thing, if you can't get a Maggie, would be like a twofer, like a twofer iron. You would just have 2 pellets on an iron. But 2 pellets on an iron actually always made the gun worse. So like say you had an iron that did 100 damage, a twofer would only do like 75 or say like 80 damage times 2 pellets, but then your accuracy decreased so much. It wasn't like the Maggie, where the Maggie has like a 75-80% accuracy and all the pellets kind of go together, and then basically just becomes more the more distance you had, the least damage it did. Kind of like what Mashers did in the first game. The twofer didn't do that. The twofer almost always, unless you was at point blank at this bandit's head, which he'd be shooting you all the time, a twofer made the gun worse. The Vladov barrel on the assault rifles always makes the gun better. The twofer prefix always made the gun worse. And if I find one, another mod that, like I said, Borderlands had was Mashers. And another mod by Aaron. And what I think he did with the Mashers was brilliant also. And then he made the Mashers compatible with the revolvers. So, let me finish this guy off here. I'll show you my, like I said, I've only found an iron yet, which is my favorite gun in the game, even if it wasn't a revolver. It'd still be my favorite pistol. I would just have lower damage, higher fire rate, but it still wouldn't compare to a sniper rifle, but this one kind of does. Now, what he did for the Masher mod, the twofer accessory is usually a little thing, looks like a sight hanging out the bottom. There is an accuracy prefix and a twofer prefix that use the same model, the same parts, accessory model, but the see, this is the trick shot accessory right here. The one hanging down here, if I had a thing hanging down here, looks kind of like a little laser sight. If it actually had a laser sight, it would just be the accuracy prefix. If it didn't have a laser sight, it would be a twofer prefix, which made your gun worse. And what Aaron did is he kind of said, well, if you're going to make the gun worse, why use a twofer prefix? Now, like on Gage, a twofer prefix could be pretty good because she doesn't have accuracy anyway, and close enough you'd want to have 2 pellets. But a twofer used 2 ammo per shot. So if it was lower damage, worse accuracy, the only thing that a twofer is really good for is on Gage. So it basically made the gun worse. So what he did was he said, well, let's embrace. If we're going to embrace terrible accuracy and lower damage per pellet, let's go ahead and embrace that. And he adjusted the twofer prefix and made it, I think some guns get 5, some guns get 6, and some guns get 7. I don't really truly know exactly what it did, but basically, if this iron, well, if it wasn't an iron, say it was a Widowmaker or a Wheelhouse, and it had the accuracy prefix, it would just be a mashing. It would be like a mashing Widowmaker. And what it would do is, I think what it does is it lowers the damage of the pellet, but it gives you more pellets. And if you, at point blank range, you hit something, the Mashers are even more powerful than the revolvers. But the fact that the accuracy gets reduced so much, you can't use them at range. Now, they're not just for Jacobs only. Like a E-Tech Masher is awesome. A E-Tech Masher is freaking awesome because the damage goes up, and then I think it's a dart, which is semi-homing. So you have all these pellets, like 6 pellets, and they're less damage per pellet, but all of them together are more damage than what my revolver would do. And then they're semi-homing. You just shoot an E-Tech at an enemy, and they just die. And then if the homing effect can only work to a certain % of accuracy, so you could like shoot off to the edge, and some will home in on one enemy and some will home on the other enemy, and instead of getting like 1 high damage shot, you'll get 4 on one enemy and 2 on another enemy. And I think that's a cool a cool balance. And then you could also get a revolver masher, which, man, the fire rate I think is slightly reduced on a masher because it's more powerful. And then they consume 2 ammo per shot, just like the twofer. He didn't really adjust the prefix. So you're getting 7 bullets, lower damage bullets for the cost of 2 ammo. And I was like, that's actually quite brilliant, because now we have revolvers that use 3 ammo per shot. And they're kind of like sniper rifle pistols. To follow like the theme that Jacobs has going. Then you got mashers, which kind of follow the shotgun.
Critical.
And they use 2 ammo per shot.
But I'm sure Reese would have been happy.
And then now the bolt actions are low fire rate, high damage. And it kind of makes Jacobs a very well-rounded. I mean, Jacobs was always good on their shotguns. You just get different. The more barrels you get, the worse your accuracy gets, and the more pellet you get, which is pretty much standard across all shotguns in general. So Jacob is no difference. It's just Jacobs had better crit, and you know, they had small mags, and they're just fun to use because they're high damage. But then, like, their sniper rifles now have the Skull Smasher, which is like a shotgun, the Striker, which is like a sniper shotgun, and then you now have Mashers, which are like shotgun pistols. Whoa. Which the Maggie was the only one that filled that role before, but man, Maggies are kind of hard to come by. So it lets them be a little bit more accessible, and basically lets you have like green rarity Maggies and blue rarity Maggies and purple rarity Maggies and white rarity Maggies. And well, I don't know if a white can spawn with an accessory or not. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, I think you have to get blues or better to get an accessory. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check that. We don't want none of that. And
Leave us alone!
Like, it lets you kind of play into like early level. Like a masher would just decimate everything if I could find one. But it also chews through my ammo a little bit more, just like this revolver does. This revolver like just decimates things. Now, it's not to the point where this buff on this sniper rifle. To me, I find early game you want a blue rarity bolt action now. It's more fun to play because the enemies are not doing the damage, and to me, to where it's not as critical that I have that high fire rate. And if I could find a masher, well, I've got a revolver, but I'd like to find a masher too to play with them. On my Jacobs Krieg, I actually found a purple mashing revolver with a band-up grip, so it's got a huge magazine. I think even with like 33 in the magazine, it's still like a 3-shot, because a twofer uses 2 ammo per shot, and then a revolver uses 3 ammo per shot, so a mashing revolver uses 6 ammo per shot. So with I only have 200 pistol ammo right now. At 6 ammo per shot, a mashing revolver, I could only shoot 33 times before I was out of ammo completely. You know, a normal wheel gun, I could shoot 200 times. A masher, I could only shoot 100 times. A revolver, I could only shoot 66 times. And then a mashing revolver, I could only shoot 33 times right now. So, yeah, a purple mashing revolver, everybody, ooh, that's going to be OP. It's going to do like 2,000 damage. And I did test it against the bolt-action sniper rifles on the test dummy with my Jacobs Krieg, which is not really good at, like, critting and snipers. And, you know, he doesn't really have any gun damage buffs or anything, or any... He's mostly elemental, and he actually has a negative crit penalty, which could actually make snipe. I think his negative crit penalties, if you boost it, would actually make assault rifles do negative critical on enemies. So if you're spraying and praying with a Vladoff and you accidentally get a critical, you're actually wasting ammo. And I tested that bolt action sniper would crit so high compared to like a green that I didn't even want to use. I don't even want to use green and purple sniper rifles anymore. I want to just play with these bolt actions. I mean, if I found one, I'm going to keep it in my backpack, because if you get overrun and you need to pop off a whole bunch of shots really quick, you want this blue one, and then I think like
that time has passed.
At the level my Krieg is, the bolt actions are doing 3,000 damage per shot, and the purples are doing like 2,000 ammo per shot. And
hey, you like my speech? I was lying about the last part, by the way. I'm gonna spend a long time torturing you bandits.
Critical,
and I'll enjoy it even more because
what did I got on me?
I got a little secret that you know what? You know.
See, things like skags you can't really crit unless their mouth's open, so you know the base damage is much appreciated on this thing. You can't crit racks, you can't crit certain things, but on a critical, you know, let's say your purple does 2,000 damage, and your crit modifier is going to get you 4 times damage. You're going to go for, you know, 2,000, it'll turn into 8,000 on a crit. And then, see, I see a badass! See how I took out a badass bully mong with 2 shots? I think that's acceptable. I don't think that's overpowered at all. And I don't know why the game keeps... Oh, I know why. Because the community patch has slightly buffed the rare enemy spawns. Like muscles and... Okay, I'm gonna have to phase lock. Like muscles and like badasses and stuff. It's a small buff. So you notice like the badass bully mongs back at the by the boat. Well, they always spawn. You always get 2 badass bully mongs there. So that's nothing different. But I've gotten 2 badasses just out here already. That's just because of the community patch kind of buffs the spawn rate of rare enemies. So in normal mode, a badass bully mong is a rare enemy. So, and I mean, if you don't like that, you say, oh man, early game is too tough because you don't have good gear, and you like the mid game when your character kind of becomes overpowered, and then you can handle a badass bully mong. Then all you got to do in the mod is just uncheck the rare enemy spawn rate buff.
Interesting. Critical.
Let me turn the sensitivity on my mouse down a little bit. Come at me, bro. See, enemies at this point in the game are really not that dangerous because they can't hit the broadside of a barn. Now, I haven't verified, I haven't seen an enemy like, technically an enemy using a bandit barrel. See, that's a Tediador barrel. Oops, I missed him. I don't know. Like, I've never seen an enemy spawn with like a revolver. I don't know if that's even possible. I'm getting on my last nerves with that attacking these birds. See, like, class mods wouldn't drop from a rack because the game says, oh, all this area you can't get class mods. until after you unlock Sanctuary. And I haven't found a class mod for Maya yet, but
Roland, is that you?
like I said,
it's the Vault Hunter.
just
Get
the
in quick.
fact that it
Roland's
is
Echo
possible
communicator went
now,
dead. We need your help.
I'm happy with, even though if I never find one. Like with my Maya, I didn't find a class mod as early before Sanctuary, but normally you can find one in the vendors if you like check the vendor. You know, and I mean, the next mission they're gonna, if you go assassinate the assassins and then come back, you usually find a class mod in the vendor before Lilith gives you one. But I'm just like kind of butthurt more of the fact that Gearbox says, no, you can't have this.
Made it to Banditville,
You know?
huh? Well done. It'll be nice to see.
I would be okay if like purples and blues were in the vending machines from the very beginning, but you just couldn't afford them. The fact that they're there and I can't have them, I'm okay with, but the fact that you can't even possibly get one, like out of any chest or any vending machine until before Sanctuary, kind of ticks me off. But by removing the restrictions, the enemies will sometimes drop them. That's why enemies are dropping sniper rifles and SMGs. Now they can use SMGs, but they won't drop a SMG. That's stupid in my opinion. And I hope in Borderlands 3, one of the things they do is kind of look at that. Don't open the thing with a crash. I mean, in Borderlands 1, yeah, it's kind of boring. Everybody, you know, everybody who, if you got a team of 4, everybody gets off the bus. If it's just you and, I like that spitter.
Good. That ought to last us a day or two. Roland was supposed to bring us some intel on how to stop Jack.